Welcome back to the Future of the Music Industry podcast. I, Xavier Jones, am joined by my two co-hosts, Derek Jackson and Atlas, and I suppose I should call you Prez. Sorry about that. Today, we are talking, since it is week one, about the importance and the necessity of building community. Um, I think each of us has kind of built communities in our own way, especially me and Prez, since kind of the precursor to that community that exists now with INSEG was something that we've been kind of building up for quite some time since we were in grade school ourselves. So uh, we do want to stress the importance of that as we get into this semester and as everyone is kind of putting their teams together at their prospective schools. It's good to have a general reminder of why we start that way, essentially. So, Prez, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so um so yesterday, I had the opportunity to go pull up on the Kennesaw State chapter. They were hosting their first interest meeting, bringing in new members, doing the whole just informational about what the program is, how it works, meeting everybody. They have their entire leadership team like squared away, and it's weird to see it how these communities can really take on a life of their own. Like I was sitting in the back and they were showing like all the videos and footage of like, you know what I'm saying, us and the stuff that we did and the videos that we have up. And people were just filling into the room. Like the entire it was like this classroom space that they had, and the entire thing was full. I mean, like all the seats filled up. Um, so just in that, I think like with this week being recruitment week and all of the members kind of building their teams, I do think it's important for us to kind of talk about like why and how like the the community element of it is so important. Like the realization that even when we first started this, the whole premise is iron sharpens iron. Even in having the opportunity to be able to speak to that group of students, letting them know it's like, if we're being honest, like half of y'all might not even be here by the end of the year, but nevertheless, it's still a beautiful thing to see all of you here right now and in this moment. But you know it is for you all to hold each other accountable, and it is important for a community to hold each other accountable. So you know what I mean. So I guess that's just kind of how I'll open up like my questions for you all, right? Like how like that's what it is about to me, about like being in an environment and being around people that are gonna challenge you to do your best and hold you accountable when you're not, because they know that you're better than what it is that you're currently doing if you ever find yourself in a funk. Like, how would y'all kind of like, I guess, speak to that, now that these students are building up their membership, now that they are recruiting other members and these other members are coming in, if we just being honest, thinking that, oh, this is gonna be fun, how would you kind of like speak to that mentality about what the community is really supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I don't think personally there is any better kind of accountability system than just having people that are either unfamiliar to you or people that you know things about, but that you ultimately already respect, there to kind of continuously not just check your progress, but to share things with you. Like, for example, for all three of us, back when we were just making music, kind of independently, there was always these times when we could come together and just kind of share the beats that we were working on, or share the compositions that we were doing, or share a mix that we were working on. And that would always, whenever I was in a rut, I could always come to the two of y'all. And if I didn't have something dope to show them, both of y'all would show that y'all hadn't been wasting time. And that would essentially gas me for another 2, 3 weeks. I think it is kind of indescribably good at keeping motivation and kind of creative grit high when you have people around you that are working on similar things. It doesn't have to be in the same field, obviously, but just knowing that you have people around you that are working towards the same goal, maybe, uh, and you're seeing them progress week to week, that will keep you kind of off your ass and in the studio or uh, uh, in the design room, you know, coming up with the next best thing.
I I agree with that sentiment too. It's important to note that I think for anybody listening to this, surrounding yourself with people who are going to genuinely want the best for you and do so in the most effective way to get results is like bare minimum for life, right? Like that's just we all need that in one way form. That nobody's alone, nobody's an island. You know, you're not going to get better until you test your metal at some point. In this particular space, especially amongst our student body, that is, I'm reminded of that every time we meet new students. I've been dealing with like meeting new students who are looking to open up chapters. And every time I have one of these conversations and I'm reading these very, very nice, you know, and accomplished resumes, and I'm talking to these guys or these girls, it's always there's this underlying thought that they all have, which is I want to get better. And out into the world looking for that organization or that thing that allows them to be better. And as long as, you know, there's no shortage of people who want to be better. Sure. Who's the best or who's the best amongst you is a day-to-day thing, especially in InSeg, because you can have someone who started off on the wrong leg and can be the top of the, you know, can be the top of the food chain within a few months, a few weeks, just given the fact that they're willing to put in more work than the next person. And the important detail is we want to give each student the opportunity to do that. Carries over into the real world. The only difference is that when you're competing in the real world, no one's going to pat you on the back when you win and say good job.
True.
Hopefully you're able, hopefully the result is you pay Georgia Power a couple of times, and you know you're able to do that a couple of times more, right? But no one's gonna sit here and say, yo, you did good, like, what's up, bro? No, you're gonna have to, this whole concept of iron sharpens iron is just as important of you developing your internal self in knowing what your best actually looks like and what it takes to achieve that, as much as it is doing so externally.
Yeah, I think that's especially kind of poignant because I mean we've all kind of gone through the college circuit at this point, and I think one of the most kind of prevalent things that I've heard as kind of a commonality in the college experience is that you might have a circle of friends, right? But let's say you're the only person in the arts in that friend group. So you've got like an athlete, you've got like a sociology major, you've got like a biology major, and then there's you. It is very different, you know, when it just comes down to brass tacks of what's going on in your minds on a day-to-day basis. It's very different when you've got people that are doing similar things to you versus people that you just get together and drink with or have a meal with, that kind of thing. And to me, it is worth kind of making that special distinction for the importance of having people that actually just share things that you're passionate about with you, right? Not just we like the same food, not just, you know, we can go see a movie, but having people that when you're kind of stuck or in kind of a mental rut, they can actually understand I think more specifically what might be getting you or what you're feeling when you're going through those kind of things. That's super important. And you know, kind of addressing the problem that InSeg is here to solve is that for aspiring entertainers, there has not been a place on campus for people like that, more or less. So you have to just kind of stumble on them. Aside from that,
ain't that funny? I'm sorry. You were gonna say something, Derek? Go for
it. I mean, no, I was just gonna say, no, I agree. Like the fact that, you know, it doesn't exist without it being built, without it being organized. So even as a message to the students who, you know, are through this organization becoming responsible for doing that, right? Like the chapter presidents and chapter leadership, like that, help having them understand like that's the service that they are providing is the facilitation of that community and of that network, and to make sure that that is strong enough to last even past their own tenure. Yeah, I think that that sometimes gets lost, and doesn't really become appreciated until till sometime after the fact. But in that particular regard, like it's a long history, of us doing that, right? Like so, you know, Zay, I'll kind of let you speak to, I guess, the origin of that history, how we got there, and why that history is even important, for what the students should be doing moving forward to keep that same spirit alive.
Yeah, so in my opinion, something, and I was thinking about this kind of all week, honestly. When we think about kind of pillars in the community, it's really easy, I think, to just kind of associate them with kind of the accolades and the status that they have when you heard about them, if that makes sense, right? When you think about, excuse me, like your Missy Elliott's, that kind of deal. Even if you know that she kind of came up in a group, it's very easy to kind of discount that there were times when, yeah, like just like probably all of the rest of us, there were, all night studio sessions, that kind of deal, when there was no money. Uh, and to that point, yeah, absolutely. I wish that we would have met you earlier in life, Atlas. Honestly, I do. Uh, but in lieu of that, yeah, me and Prez, obviously, we've known each other since pre-K, and we have always kind of strived to have an extended kind of social family that we were doing whatever it is that we were doing at the time with. Kind of most notably, we had kind of the first iteration of this late middle school going into high school. We had something called Southside Voice. As lame as you want to say that it is now, it is essentially the same thing that we're teaching now with NSEG. We were just, if you want to think about it that way, kind of our own members at that time. And as we got older and kind of crossed into like late high school to college, we kind of rebranded that as Wise Nation. And that is just to attest to the power and longevity that having that kind of social network and community has. That is now the vehicle that powers NSEG, which is, I think, just kind of a third generation of that same concept. So it should not be understated just how many people you can help, just how many people can have similar ideals to you if you really embrace the concept of kind of building and maintaining a community of people that you respect. Because I can't speak for the both of you, but I have to assume that it's true. All of the coolest people I've ever met has either been through Wise or NSEG. It has all been from the most influential people to the most artistically talented people. It has almost always been either through the events, the ambitions, or kind of the secondary placements that I've gotten from the social networks that I've kept.
Yeah, to speak to to speak about, those old days of first SSV and then going into like Wise. I think there was a level to it where, especially as we started getting into like the philosophical thought process of it, that's where I think it kind of landed so squarely in academia. You know what I'm saying? Think, keeping in mind that one was like middle school to high school, and then the other one was squarely centered around our, time in college.
Mm.
And then, NSEG being the realization that it was like this community thing that we were doing that was allowing us to go so far was surprisingly something that not everyone had. And as a matter of fact, it was surprisingly something that most people didn't have. Hence the reason we decided to like turn it into a charitable endeavor and make it something where we could help facilitate it, where it's both, entrepreneurial, it's community, it's education, all in one. But now, we're the ones kind of trying to offer that to students the same way that we had it, because we understand and recognize how important it was, for our own growth and development and our stability. You know what I'm saying? Just as human beings trying to navigate what we found out, through a lot of other people, can be very, 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 you know, mentally taxing work, emotionally straining, draining work. And I think that I don't know if we would have been able to do all the things that we did or get as far as we gotten without that support structure that we literally built with our own two hands.
Honestly, I think that's super beautiful. Like, I've always admired you guys' history together, because it is exactly as you said it, like this wonderful. I'm not going to say the word wonderful, with wonderful in to overshadow the difficulty of maintaining it over time. But I've always admired that, because that's something I've never really had. Up until really recently, until I met y'all, I never really had that. The closest thing I had to that was, I guess, my friends group at the friend group that I had at Norfolk. First got there, and I met my first mentor that I can honestly say I ever had musically, which was his name was Mikkel White. One of the best keyboards you're gonna find in the 7 cities, period. To this day. He's like literally won awards for this. But he taught everything that I knew about at the time. And for like the entire time I was at Norfolk State, it was like him and a few other guys we were just all really tight for all 4 of my years. And boy, oh boy, when I tell you, like, it was so hard to come back to Georgia and not have them around, because I was so used to having this group of people that we all produced together, all in music. We were all in the music media together. And we had this cadence, talking about the first week of freshman year to like the moment I stepped foot off a campus. Yo, bro, like, we would trade beats every day. Every day. But it's different. Virginia's a different beast. It's got some of the like best musicians in the world that come out of Virginia, and it's just a well-kept secret, period. And so I'm like, I wasn't that great of a musician. And so when Mikkel made me be a good musician, he made me play keys at all times. Like, he piano dependent to this day. He made me play piano. He made me write. He made me like learn MIDI the way he knew MIDI, because all these guys played in church. So it was just kind of like they were used to constant fast pace. It's the reason why I'm able to work with Alex the way that I work with him, because that's how I got trained. So on top of that, and then my classes at Norfolk State in the music department, it was like I was getting schooled left and right, but it was so much fun because I had a group of friends that just made me grow. And I got so much better as a music producer. And even years after, I was still trading beats, like, yo, what you doing? What you got? And we would constantly go back and forth. And, that's the closest thing I really have to that, to what you all are describing, I guess. And it is such a huge part of like who I've become now. But that being said, again, I know that was like a lot, but that being said, it is so impactful to build that core unit of folks that you could just consistently go to war with. And I think at this age, that when you find those people more often than not, when you're really discovering who you are at this point in time in your life. It's probably the first time you've been away from home, first time you've been away from family. Like you're meeting people who are in line with who you're trying to be. And some of these relationships you're going to have for the rest of your life. I know I still talk to people to this day that I met in 2007 at the freaking calf. Like there are people I still talk to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I feel like that's something that NSEG has really, really, especially if it's already in the DNA with the people who, I feel like that's inherently something that you kind of pass on passively into the students that are coming in. And I hope that they continue to grow together in that way too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I think that in that, right, though, in light of that and in recognition of that, the next thing, that we have to address is really how it's almost like, to an extent, it happens somewhat organically anyway, but there's so much potential there that isn't being captured. So with us building this platform and making it, tech enabled, right? Like, the launch of the NSEG app, the creation of the curriculum that is really designed to like walk students through how all of this has happened. Atlas, speak on that, right? Like, we were talking a little bit before the stream started about this whole concept of community as a service now being a thing, but really it's just the intersection of what we're discussing and tech and how we are utilizing technology to help the next generation of creatives do the things that we did, but also do it on an even wider scale to even be able to connect those communities across, campus lines. Like speak a little bit about that from the technical standpoint.
From the tech side, the tools that we've been able to put together arguably are efficient and practical. I like to, from the stats platform on to just how we developed our LMS and the ability to be able to communicate with each other within it. All of that stuff is designed for engagement because now we understand that we're in the age of community in the tech world, or at least that's how I've been referring to it, where you don't have competitors anymore. You have options. I think we talked about this not too long ago, how like there's people who came before the internet, we had to choose, right? Either you were AT&T or you were Sprint, or
yep.
Or like you're either a Coke fan or a Pepsi fan, right? Like you didn't deal with both. People were very much like black and white because arguably we couldn't consume both at the same time. Now you can. You can do all things in Christ that strengthens you. Like we were talking about how this is something that we deal with a lot now on the tech side, how entire generation of tech users that have been born into the internet, that's all they know. And that if, for example, you put Uber and Lyft on their phone, they're not going to look at it, ooh, why do you have Lyft on my phone? Or, ooh, why do you have Uber? Which people who are older would do that. Now it's just kind of like, is this a great place for Lyft or is this a great place for Uber? They look at those interchangeable options. That is the exact same way our industry works in entertainment. You don't have competitors. No one actually cares about the top 100. I've never heard any here and say, oh, I love such and such. I heard them on the top Billboard 100 chart. No one says that. Old heads do. We care, but they don't. And the reason why they don't care is because they listen to everybody. They have access to everyone. And because all of those artists at least figured out that they have their own communities. There are people who honestly can tell the difference between Lil Durk and Lil Baby. I can't, but their fans do, because their fans they subscribe to those individual communities. So when you think about it from that perspective, our artists and the tools that we give, or I'm sorry, our students and the tools that we give them give them the ability to be able to do that thing, which is establish their community, because you don't truly have competitors anymore. There's no one taking up space. People are going to listen to you if they want to. It's not the music industry of old where I have to listen to this because it's the only thing playing on the radio. I can listen to whoever I want at any time. I have a choice as a consumer now. So our students, the tools that we've given them give them the agency to be able to make those. Now find your tribe. It might be halfway where they're from. That's your community. They like you, you like them, and you don't have to be choosy on that. And with our tech platform being what it is, when they go into, for example, if they're looking at their stats on our platform, they can know how their performances are. They can see that, hey, every time they do a show, they're seeing what their conversion rates are next to the other CEs or then other teams that are running and stuff. And they can, that tool is extremely powerful. Maybe you don't need to be in this particular market. Maybe you don't need to go do a show at center stage. Maybe you need to hit the brewery scene or the brewery circuit. Maybe your fans are there, your community is there. That's fine. But you'll be able to know real quick with the tools that we provide through our partnerships and and our integrations, how you're actually doing and who you're activating on. That is way better than most people have outside of NSEG.
That's just, I think, an incredibly powerful statement in general. There is kind of a diminishing need to think of the music business as a zero-sum game at this point. There is enough money at the table, and there are by far more than enough people to listen to your music for you to have to think that the people, especially like even on the different campuses that you may be competing against someday, there is room for you both at the table, right? And like, for example, I remember when you introduced the labs to us, just the concept of being able to share a studio session with someone else that is in a different room is crazy to me. To be able to do that with people around the world just completely changed how I thought about the intimacy of a studio session, and kind of understanding that you can be collaborating with people that don't even speak the same language as you in real time. Like, the more that technology like that becomes prevalent and kind of accessible to younger and younger people, I think we're going to see kind of the advancement of that statement and of that mindset more and more as time goes by.
And it's happening now, right? I use the example of how most people, I don't know if you guys are like, what do you call it? What's the name of this? Like, when we think about modern day hip hop, it is inherently competitive, but let anybody mention almost any other genre, and they will literally say that they like two artists that I know for a fact their teams are rushing every time the one drops content. They're rushing to make sure they drop. They believe they're competing against one another, but their fans do not care at all. And you can ask our young people all day long. They'll be like, oh, I love that song, this, that, and the third. I love this person's song. And then they'll say the other person that they're beefing with or whatever, I love that person's song too. It's like, bro, you're at this point, they don't see any lines because all they've ever had is options.
True.
And the business is going to have to, I know we're prepared for it. This is something we share a lot with our students. Like when we had our executive call on Monday. Hey, if you got an artist that we are a new chapter in Arizona. Hey, if Arizona is a country and metal, school, and that's what y'all like on your campus, and we got a couple of country and metal artists over here in Kennesaw should be talking with Arizona and make sure their artists is doing labs with those folks in Arizona, because that might not be the demographic at Kennesaw. Why bother? Like, Why bother running this ridiculous race in this location? You got somebody who's plugged in with your community over here.
Right.
And those invisible lines we used to draw with geography and distance are gone with the digital age. And our platform directly enables that for our students.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, enough said. I think that, you know, ultimately what we've kind of concluded here is that, like, this entire system, this entire network, especially this week, especially being that it's, you know, it's recruitment week. It is community building week among the insect chapters. For all of those members who may be listening to this, um, meditate on it. You know, think about how you are going to, you know, build that community, serve that community, contribute to that community, and expand that community. Because at the end of the day, having that especially large group, or even if it's a small but elite group, really hold you accountable and push you further, it's just invaluable. So, you know, I as always, thank you guys for, you know, the time. We're gonna be looking forward to next week. Next week is gonna be all about the A&R process, or the recruitment of artists part of this conversation. And I think we'll have a nice, fun conversation about egos. What do y'all think?
I'm sure we will. There's plenty to cover there.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we'll look forward to it.
So thank y'all for tuning in. I know we don't say this, or we didn't say this the last time, but thank you for watching. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And I think YouTube still has that bell system that if you click next to the subscribe button to make sure that you'll be notified as soon as we drop the next episode. So until then, take care of yourselves and keep making music. Later.
Those.
Peace.